Tom comes out of the gates running, playing a swamp into Changeling Outcast. Next is Extra with a Plains, followed by Sam with his tapped Woodland Cemetery, and John with a Mountain into Quest for the Goblin Lord. Tom continues to snowball, playing a swamp into both a Felwar Stone and a Tiny Bones to Pickpocket. He then sends his Outcast to John and passes to Extra, who simply plays a swamp and gives the turn over to Sam. Sam plays a forest, then goes for the green acceleration of 3 visits, getting a forest to cast an Elvish Mystic, passing the turn afterward. John plays a mountain, followed by a Battlecry Goblin, triggering Quest to gain a counter, before giving the turn back to Tom. Tom plays another swamp, and tries to pull ahead, casting his commander, Gonti, Night Minister. With him in play, he goes to combat, sending Outcast at Sam and Tiny Bones at Extra. Wanting to keep him in check, Extra responds with a Bovine Intervention, destroying Gonti to make an Ox. After that, he passes. Extra plays a Plains, then casts his commander, Ketramose, the New Dawn, and passes to Sam. Sam plays a Deathcap Glade, and continues the commander spree with Lathril, Blade of the Elves. Once in play, he casts Elves of the Deep Shadow, and gives the turn to John. John plays a mountain, followed by a Goblin Matron, using its effect to find a Skirt Prospector, while triggering Quest to get a counter. Next he attacks Extra with his Battlecry Goblin, before passing the turn back to Tom. Tom plays a swamp, then casts a Thought Vessel, followed by a quick move to combat, having Outcast go at Sam and Tiny Bones at Extra. This triggers Tiny Bones to target and cast Bovine Reclamation, destroying Lathril. With that out of the way, he passes. Extra plays a swamp, and casts a Felidar Guardian, triggering its effect to blink his Plains, having Ketramose lose 1 life and draw a card. Having nothing else to do, he gives the turn to Sam. Sam plays a swamp, followed by a chain of casts, starting with a Soul Ring, then an Elven Chorus, and ending with a Lissalana Huntmaster from the top. He then passes the turn. John plays a mountain, then simply casts a Skirt Prospector, triggering Quest to get a counter, before passing back to Tom. Tom first casts a Grim Hireling, going to combat right after, sending the Ox at John, Outcast at Sam, and Tiny Bones at Extra. Extra once again steps in, this time casting a Swords to Plowshares, targeting Hireling. Not wanting it to go to waste, Tom responds with a Deadly Dispute, sacrificing Hireling to draw 2 and make a treasure. The damage then resolves, triggering Tiny Bones to cast a freshly binned Swords to Plowshares, this time exiling Huntmaster. In his second main, he plays a swamp and gives the turn over to Extra. Extra plays a Caves of Koilos, then casts a Restoration Angel, having everyone quake in fear as he targets Felidar Guardian. Needing to stop this from happening, John cycles his Gempalm Incinerator, triggering its effect to try and take out Felidar. Not wanting to lose it, Extra responds with Cloud Shift to try and save it, but is interrupted by Tom, paying 4 life to cast Snuff Out, finally destroying Felidar. Having lost his combo, Extra sadly passes the turn. Sam then goes on another casting spree, first playing an Azuri, Renegade Leader, followed by an Arbor Elf, both from the top of the deck, then caps it off with a Ruthless Winnower. With the Winnower in play, John is forced to sacrifice Matron, before moving to his main phase, where he finally casts his commander, Krenko Mob Boss, triggering Quest to get another counter. With that out of the way, he hands the turn back to Tom. On Tom's upkeep, Winnower triggers again, eating up the Ox, followed by a main phase swamp and a recast of Gonti, Night Minister. Next is combat, with Outcast and Tiny Bones going at Extra. This triggers Gonti to exile 2 from Extra, one of which is a Helpful Hunter, triggering Gonti to make a treasure and Hunter to draw a card. Lastly, he casts a Tormented Soul and gives the turn to Extra. On Extra's upkeep, Winnower triggers, making him sacrifice his Angel. In his main phase, he first casts Exercise to exile Chorus, triggering Ketramose to lose 1 and draw a card. Next is a Vanishing Verse, this time exiling Winnower, again losing 1 and drawing with Ketramose. He then ends the turn with a Plains and a Senu, Keen-Eyed Protector. Sam first casts Bounty of Skemfar, only finding Dionys, Elvish Archdruid, which he then casts. He moves to combat, sending everything at Extra, triggering Dionys to untap all the elves and give them a counter. The damage then goes through, forgetting about Gonti's effect, followed by a Harvest Season, getting 4 forests, and a pass to John. John first casts a Goblin Lackey, triggering Quest to get a counter and begin buffing his creatures. He then casts You See a Pair of Goblins, making 2 Goblin tokens, followed by a Krenko activation, making 6 more Goblins, some of which are sacrificed to cast Shared Animosity. With that in play, he sends everything at Sam, first triggering Battle Cry to make an attacking Goblin, then Animosity to buff up all the attacking Goblins. Not having enough to survive, Sam decides to take out Lackey and Prospector on his way out. With him out of the way, he gives the turn back to Tom. Tom plays a Swamp, then immediately sends his entire army at Extra, having Tiny Bones blocked by Senu. This triggers Gonti 4 times to steal his top 4. Among those, he first casts Grasp of Fate, exiling Ketramose and Krenko, while making a treasure with Gonti. Next is a Leonin Relic Warden, exiling Animosity and making a treasure, followed by a gifted Cruel Claws Heist, giving Extra an additional card before taking his Obtruse Appropriation, which he then casts targeting Quest, triggering Gonti to make 1 last treasure. After all that resolves, he passes. Extra simply plays a command tower and casts Guardian of Ghirapur before giving the turn to John, who plays a mountain, then casts Torbrand, Thane of Redfell, and sends everything he has at Tom, triggering Battlecry to make an attacking Goblin. Before blocking, Tom responds with a stolen Path to Exile, exiling Torbrand and triggering Gonti. He then blocks a Goblin with Leonin, leaving John with nothing else but to pass. Tom again goes for an all-out attack, sending Gonti, Soul, and Outcast at Extra, while Hunter and Leonin go at John. Gonti naps 6 more cards, followed by a second main Brainstealer Dragon and Marionette Apprentice, making a servo as it enters. He goes to Zen Step, taking 2 more cards with his dragon, before giving the turn to Extra. Extra only plays a Plains and passes, while John has a small improvement, playing a mountain and recasting Krenko Mob Boss, passing the turn back to Tom, who simply reveals a bit of his exiled cards at his disposal, causing both Extra and John to admit defeat, making Tom today's winner.